Power of One. Today, we're going to be discussing domestic violence and how it affects so many of us. We have to remember never to pass judgment because if you're not in that situation, you really don't know what you may do. Today, we're going to be speaking with two lovely young ladies. One is Marissa, who's actually in law enforcement, and she was a victim of domestic violence. And we're also going to be speaking with Harriet. They have a wonderful podcast to help women like you and like me. Marissa and Harriet, welcome to the show. Marissa, let's begin with you. You are in law enforcement, and unfortunately, you were a victim of domestic violence. Please share your story.
Yes. So very briefly, of course, I've been in law enforcement for 8.5 years now. I also have a military background of 9 years. And throughout my entire time at the sheriff's office, I've been with my husband, soon to be ex-husband. And at the beginning, of course, when you're going through domestic violence, it doesn't start off that way. They have to pull you in and reel you in with the love bombing and all those kind of things, right? So naturally, I have this bubbly personality. I have this outgoing demeanor and very sure and confident, personality. That's just me, right? If you see me, if you was to describe me in certain words, it wouldn't be abused. It wouldn't be a victim of domestic violence. It would be this strong person, this person, this warrior, this soldier. And in my relationship, I believe as I advanced in my career, it made him feel insignificant. And then that's where the devaluing came in. And it wasn't my domestic abuse wasn't physical, right? So he's never put his hands on me. He had a sword of a tongue, to kind of cut you down. Witness would be the most quiet person in the room when you're being celebrated. He said things like, you didn't do anything for those promotions. So those kind of statements, amongst many other ones, started me to realize that I'm not in a healthy relationship. I'm not in the healthiest of relationships. And I can compare them to the ones around me. Although, people can put on a good facade, I realized there was a difference in my husband, in, the people around me and their significant others. So just during the pandemic is when I really asked for a divorce. And it was, some people might say it was small. I was in the kitchen, I was having a disagreement with him. We weren't arguing because I used to pride myself on the lack of arguments I would have with him, when actually that was the form of abuse. He was shifting how we would have conversations, so I didn't have a voice. So I could count on in 8 or 9 years that we've been together, on one hand, how many times we've had an argument. Even a discussion about anything really relevant that promotes change, I could not tell you that I've had a successful one. So during the pandemic, right after my son's second birthday, I asked for a divorce because we were in the kitchen a couple weeks prior. I said, we having disagreements. I said, you know what? I just agreed to disagree with you. Very mellow, right? Because I don't want to trigger him. So I agreed to disagree. And he says, you're stupid. It wasn't that he said you're stupid. It was the intent behind it. And I knew in my heart, I always knew that he wasn't the most loving and doting husband. But now I said, he's getting comfortable. He's getting comfortable. And this is where we call them gateway actions. First, he's going to use his words. And if I allow that to break me, or if I start to get resistance, then it can be physical. I've seen it in relationships in my own family. So again, that whole authentically strong person in me was like, oh, heck no, we got to go. It has to be done. So that's a little recap on just who I am, how strong of a person I am, how I was labeled as strong, and who I married in this, just a little time lapse of I love you, you're beautiful, to you're stupid,
Now, did you ever think to yourself, I actually come to the aid of some domestic violence victims? Did you ever think to yourself, how did I get here because of your profession? And did you ever beat yourself up for what you thought you allowed to take place, even though we don't allow it as domestic violence victims, but did you ever feel sorry for yourself or second guess yourself?
If we're being very honest, I contemplated on staying until the children were 18. So I didn't really look at myself as the victim. I didn't have time for that because what I was saving were my children. I didn't want them to see that or be subjected to that kind of toxicity in the household. That's what I really was running from initially. I could, again, as a strong, authentically strong person, I could shut him out and you know, kind of build a shield around myself and my heart and still be in the same household. But they can't. They internalize things. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I looked at her and I said, if I don't get out, she's not me. She doesn't experience adulthood where we can kind of like channel out people and tune people out and you know, put them in categories. So that's where I really was running from. But it took me to be on the run metaphorically to realize just how battered and damaged I was. I didn't even get to, I placed myself on the back burner, my emotions, what I was capable of. I placed myself on the back burner. It wasn't really, you know, like it wasn't to the forefront as it is now these days where I reached out to you and I'm like, you said, have I saved anyone? And I'm like, ironically, I'm saving myself. I just started using the word abuse. I was still uncomfortable with that. I just was like, I'm in a bad relationship. I'm in a relationship with a narcissist. It's when my anxiety got the worst of me. And it's when I started having those thoughts, like if I pull up to the driveway, what if he comes from around the front door and shoots me in the head? Like those, I sleep with a deadbolt on my door. I realized, like Marissa, that wasn't even if I was trying to be amicable or try to be the person, to be the peace in the household, because he wouldn't leave. He said, as long as my name isn't on this legally, you can't do anything. And it's your job. You know you can't. Oh my goodness. So my abuser is telling me I literally can't do anything. And I have these small children. Again, they were priority. And I don't know if I'm getting away from it, but I didn't look at Marissa as abused until I was removed from the fire and I was on the outside of it. When you're inside the fire, all you see is the flames.
Harriet, please share your story with us.
I too am a former police officer. And I got married later on. My children were grown. So the time that I got married, my children were out of the house. The baby was in law school. And, you know, it was just him and I. He was also a former police officer. And it started off as mental abuse. So I wasn't paying it much attention. I didn't realize that what mental abuse meant. Like, by me being a strong Black woman, you know, an entrepreneur, running my own business and taking care of him who could take care of himself, but I wasn't realizing what he was asking for me. So I felt like I was in a relationship where as long as we're working together, it's our money and it's okay. But he was manipulating me, saying, you know, I supposed to have residuals because I'm your husband. I come first and I supposed to do this and I supposed to do that. And then he would say things like I was delusional, like, you know, you're so damn delusional. She was expressing, what do you mean I'm delusional? Well, who doesn't do what they're supposed to do in a household with your husband? It's our money. It's not your money. You're not supposed to take the money and do different things with it. And what about your son that's in law school? It doesn't matter. It's about you and I. And for a long time, I was saying, well, my children are grown. You know, I should be doing certain things. But then I am what abuse looks like. The first choke was I'm going through a lot. A lot's going on. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. And I forgave him because it was just a choke. So I was like, okay, he didn't mean it. Then the next thing, it was a slap. And then there was a spit. And there was a kick. And then I realized I'm being abused. So now I have grown children are saying, Mom, what's wrong with your eye? Mom, why are you in the hospital again? What's wrong with you?
So the children were in the house when some of this was going on.
They wasn't in the house, but they knew me. I'm always bubbly. I'm always dressed nice, out on the go, you know, and now I'm making excuses as to why I don't want to come. Oh, I don't feel good. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, my back hurt. Oh, and I remember being dragged down the basement steps He's 245 pounds, work out at the gym 5 days a week, big buff man, and just constantly punching me in my thigh. And I was fighting him back. Like, I'm not scared of you. He wanted me to say that I was afraid of him. I never was afraid of him. All that he done to me or he was doing, I never was afraid of him. I just felt like, I'm going to fight you back. You can knock me down 100 times. I'm going to fight you back. Even when one time I said, that's it. I called the police. The police came out and they said, we're going to take you to the hospital and then we're going to take you to the police station. I was so embarrassed that they were our friends that came to the house.
Wow.
On the police department, that I made an excuse as to why. Or never mind, I'm not going to worry about it. The young lady who was a detective, her and I were in the police academy together. And she says, Harriet, I'm calling. I'm coming to get on doing a warrant. And I begged her, like, I'm not pressing charges. I'm leaving it alone. It's fine. It wasn't until he attacked my son, my 30-year-old son, that I said, that's it. Like, I can't keep putting a Band-Aid on. It's all right that you hurt me. Now you hurt my children. And I have a nice son who's a military son, because had it been a different type of 30-year-old, it would have been differently. You understand? And that's what I was afraid of. I don't want my children to get in trouble for what I chose or who I chose to be with. So even down, like she was saying, her house, my house was the same way. He was like, I'm not leaving. I'm not staying, but I'm not leaving. It's our house or whatever. And I just called the moving company one day and said, hey, be here. When he left for work, get here by this time, hand me out by this time. So I moved my things. When he came home, I wasn't there. And he didn't snap then, but the next day when he realized what I had done, I was the worst person in the world. I was the worst person in the world. He wanted nothing to do with me, but he wouldn't divorce me. I begged him, just sign the papers. He wouldn't divorce me. But then I kept trying to make it okay. Like, you know, he lost his mother, or, you know, he's going through something on his job. It's like, I made an excuse for what he was doing to me until I realized that I was the one being abused. I'm the one taking the hits. I'm the one taking the talks where I'm delusional. I'm nothing. I'm never going to be nothing. Mind you, I'm an entrepreneur. I have my own business, left my job, stepped out on faith, have a second business, own my home, have properties. He has none of those things. But I felt like
somebody used to
I was the person that was nothing, or I couldn't be anything. Like, you're this. But then when I get my friends, I give all advice. I'm the strong person. Oh, you want to? I can help you. And I looked in the mirror and was like, you telling the story to them, but what are you doing for you? I had to back up and say, okay, enough is enough. I have to do what I have to do, and it's going to take me some time to get over it. But when I get over it, I can look back at it. And then you never think that somebody else is going through it. And one day she came, brought her son. Her son goes to my daycare. So she brings her son to school. And I could see in her eyes something is wrong, because I looked that same way. And I said, what's wrong? And she was like, oh, nothing. And she was so bubbly and so smiley and nothing. And I said, let me share something with you. And I shared my story. And when I shared my story with her, she shared her story with me. And then we realized all women go through. We all look different. Right. You know, we all have jobs. We all entrepreneurs, or we're working on something, or own our homes. Abuse has no form. It's just abuse. And we take it. We take it. If somebody says to you, you're a B, you're this, you're that, you brush it off. If somebody constantly pounding at your head every day, and then the next man, I didn't mean it. You know, I didn't mean it, baby. He's going through something. You kind of believe it. You kind of believe it. You kind of believe it. But when you hear from, up and down, it's up and down. Yeah. But I realized something about him as well. I realized that as long as I kept my family away and I didn't deal with my children on a regular, then he was okay, because I was isolated. Yeah. He had to himself to do whatever, to say whatever, to you know, whatever it was. But my youngest son came home from, at the time he was in law school, he was in college, and he said, Mom, he's not a good person. He had heard him on the phone, and he was saying things like, oh, she's stupid. She'll do it. I'll get her to do it. No worry about it. And he said, Mom, when he told me, I was like, I confronted him about it. He was like, you don't listen to your children. They don't want to see you happy. They don't want you with nobody, you know, that type of thing. So I guess it went on for about 5 years before I realized that I need to get out. So I was in the hospital often, maybe twice a month I was in ICU with my asthma, maybe twice a month. Once I separated, I went to the hospital maybe once in the last 5 years because it was stress. I was so stressed out that it was causing me to have breathing problems, but I wasn't aware of it. I didn't know. I just felt like whether it's the climate's changing or whether it's different, you know, things of that nature. And then he would do things like, an example, he would do things like say, let's just go away, you and I, and we'll fix it. We'll work it out. And I'll go away. All the way to Mexico. This man is putting his hands on me. Why didn't I say something to the police? Why didn't I say something? No, I want to get him locked up over here. I'm always worried about his feelings and how he feels, and never how I feel or what's going on with me. You understand what I'm saying? So they get to the point where you start believing like, well, maybe I am deluded. Maybe he didn't mean it. Maybe he did. You start second guessing yourself, you know, and when you get your own strength back, like I told Marissa, when you be able to breathe, because in life, you're either in something, going through something, or coming out, regardless as to what it is. That's just life. When you get to the point where you can come out of something and look back and then move forward to say, I looked in the rearview mirror, I'm not staying there, and move forward, you get to feel your worth again. You get to feel like you're whole again, and you have control. You have control of your destiny, what you want to do. And I've talked to people all the time about not allowing a man to talk to them in any kind of way. That's how it starts off.
Right.
You say something first, then it's a little hit. You don't take it. No slap. You don't take it. The next thing, this man drugged me a flight of 26 steps on my back. On my back. Spit on me, kicked me. And this was my husband that loved me. Somebody that
Let me ask you a question. None of it's right, whether it's verbal or whether it's physical.
Absolutely.
This man spit on you.
Hawk spit, not spit. Drug from down the bottom pits of his stomach.
That's, I mean, again, all of it's bad. Don't get me wrong. All of it's bad. That's just, it's mind-boggling. You know, that you can treat someone that you say you love like that. You know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am.
That is so unbelievable to me. And you know what else I think is unbelievable, ladies, is when some ladies hear about your story and they'll be like, oh, never me. Oh, I would do this.
I did that. I said that. I said that.
You know what you're going to do until you're in a situation.
That's correct.
And how about, should I tell my father? Should I tell my brothers? But see, you know what? He knows what time I go to work. If you're not living with this person, or he's your husband and he lives with you all the time, your dad or your brothers aren't going to be with you all
the time. And that's the fear. That's where the fear comes in. Like you second guess. You think about it like, okay, my brother did say something to him, and he was so humble. He was like, no, I never put my hands on her. And I didn't want it to go any further. So I said, no, just to, you know, I don't want nobody else to be in a situation because I created it. You know, I could live with myself with that. But looking back on it all, I took it too long. I should have did what I did on the back end, which was walked away. I begged him to sign the papers. Like, I'll give you everything. I'll pay the cards off. I'll just sign the papers and let me walk. Because I knew that I couldn't take that. No, my life would have been done. I couldn't take another hit to my head, another. Right now I have a cyst on my pituitary that I have to get MRI every 6 months. I don't know if it came from the hits, but I can say prior to, I didn't have anything. Wow. So that's a lot to think about.
Your courage is amazing. And I thank you for being so transparent and sharing your story. So now both of you powerhouses connected. And I understand that you have a podcast. Tell me about this podcast.
Yes. I'll let me hear it. So we were trying to come up with a name because we knew, first of all, we are talkers. We love to speak. As she is sharing her experience with me, I was sharing my experience with her, with other women. What we found was the beautiful word of empowerment. What we've seen as just survivors of abuse or just survivors of life, right? Because well before, there was abuse, there were other things and events in our lives that we were overcoming,
Right.
just even entrepreneurship or just, being in law enforcement, being a woman in law enforcement, in
Right.
authoritative role. All these things we're coming through and we're finding ourselves, but we're surviving it. And we're like, we need to come together, do a podcast. So it's called 10 Times the Woman. And the concept is, so her and I partner together and we find 8 other women in our, 8 other women out here, any 8 other women. There are
a year. We're going
game
to use
changers.
8
Yes.
women a year. We're the 2 that make the 10. We're going to always invite 8 other women in our circle yearly, so that we can all get together collectively, get our thoughts together, what we want to do, and empower other women. So we decided to say 10 times the woman, and then we, WE, which is we empower.
So Women Empower is the acronym.
Is enough.
Is enough. So we are enough. And we want to share that message with other women. So we haven't done our first podcast episode yet because we are just like so new to it and writing down our ideas and making sure we don't have to be perfect when we launch, but it has to be purposeful when we launch,
right?
And of intent. So we want to ensure that we have our mission aligned with the people that we are bringing in vetting in a way. Because when I thought of it, of course, Miss Melanie Nelson, who else comes to mind? Okay. I met you and I was like, okay, first of all, she's my sister forever.
Yeah.
But I just thought, I said, okay, like I've met so many strong women and nothing but God has aligned us to cross paths and have these experiences. It takes the authentic women out here to kind of highlight and be comfortable in these settings and have these conversations, bring it to the table metaphorically, and have other women just tune in and say, that was me. Even if they're not comfortable with coming out, they can say it's identifiable. I've been there. And you can get through it. And that's it.
And you said a mouthful when you said for it not to be perfect. It's not about being perfect.
Yes.
And it's not about having those cute conversations.
Yes.
Nowhere we're going to have a cute conversation. This is where, since we're going to sit down and we're going to talk.
We're going to talk.
That's just it. We have to be real. You know what I mean? You want to curse? You curse. You want to cry? You cry. Look,
that's
you want to
That's it.
But you have to do something that's going to help you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Real. That's what's important. And I think that is what will carry you through. And remember, the power of one starts with you.
Yes.
So as long as you're reaching one, whether it's a female or a male, because some are male,
because men are abused as well.
Relationships also. So it's the power of one.
Yes.
That in mind, as long as I can help one along my journey, I'm doing good. So, don't lose focus on good. Both of you have been through 2 very traumatic experiences.
Still going through it.
We have to go through things that are uncomfortable.
Right.
And it's not about us.
No, it's not.
Because you two are going to save lives.
Yes.
So you had to go through that uncomfortable journey. Sometimes, God, look, these tests, they get a little bit too much for me. No more tests, Jesus. I didn't study in high school, so I don't need no more tests. But unfortunately, we have to go through these tests in life.
Right.
Yes. But you went through the test to save someone's life.
Right.
And ladies, I say thank you.
Thank
I say thank you. Keep doing it. If you grow weary, look at somebody that you was able to help. And the gratification will come from that, and that will keep you pressing forward. So tell me something before we wrap up. Are both of you out of the relationship safely?
I am.
Because sometimes when you in the relationship, it's still on for a little while.
Right. So I'm actively still going through it. I have an active PFA, protection from abuse order, against my soon-to-be ex-husband. So I'm very much in the thick of it right now. but I'm stronger than I've ever
And
been.
I'm supporting her.
Yes, I have my support
I'm
system.
supporting her.
I have my
Yes.
level of anxiety, and I have my second guessing. You know, like I spoke to you separately on a different line the other day, and I was telling you he violated the order already a couple of times. And were they malicious? And some could say so, but I think they're just his way. A person who has had control over you for so long, it doesn't just stop. It doesn't just stop. A piece of paper saying stay away doesn't just stop it. If anything, it could encourage it even more, because how dare you have a spine now? How dare you paint this image and let other people know what I've been doing? So I'm on high alert, but I am not hiding. My head is on a swivel. Like I said, I have my set of precautions. I still carry my 9mm. But and that's a scary thought that I would have to utilize that, and he's the children's father. However, if he honors that as much as I do, he wouldn't put himself in a position in order for me to defend myself. So it's all fair game. And I only can say this with confidence in my chest up, not because I'm authentically strong, but because my support system is way different than it was in the beginning of my journey. I didn't have it. At least I thought I didn't have it, because I wasn't using my mouth to tell people what were going on, the people closest to me. And when I tell you they have, it moves me to tears. The people that have always been around me have stepped up. I have male friends who they helped me move out of here. Like I moved all my stuff out of my house that I'm in right now. All of my stuff is currently in storage because I moved up and moved me and the children out of the house because it was too toxic. And I was, again, like I said, I was saving them more so than myself. But then I was like, why am I sleeping on someone's bed with my two children? No, you go. And the abuse that you continue, now I'm going to hold you accountable. I got a protection from abuse order with an addiction to it. And ironically, one of my old coworkers, who now works in Chester City, was one of the members that served them this order. So it's just to give the little back. I'm still going through it, but I'm coming through it.
She's coming through it. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
One day at a time. One day at a time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please be careful, because sometimes we don't know what the intent is of others.
Right.
So, ladies, I thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Please let me know when this podcast comes out, because I will be tuning in. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Please know that if you need help and you are in a domestic violence relationship, please call the number on the screen to get help. But always make sure that you are safe and never put yourself in harm trying to get help. But please seek help when you are safe and when you are in a safe environment. Peace and love.